systematic testing and enhancing cleaning procedures of vaccinated education workers will be accelerated next week as well. This is 680 News. Number one for breaking news.
The only reason you're doing that is because these dirty nigger kids will make us sick.
Guys in downtown Toronto is 17 degrees. Good afternoon, I'm James Monroe.
I'm so Janet Simmons. Here the top
So the education minister just had a thing here.
Breaking news from the Ford government. Ontario declaring a third state of emergency and issuing a province-wide stay-at-home order. They're expanding vaccine eligibility for education workers and essential workers and anyone 18 plus in hotspots like Toronto and Peel, but only when local units are there. Doug Ford says 40% of Ontario will be vaccinated by the end of the 4-week stay-at-home. Majority of non-essential retailers will be permitted to operate for curbside pickup only, and big box stores will only be allowed to sell essential items.
time for 680 Sports.
Alex and James, the Blue Jays are finally on the board. Marcus Semien just hitting a solo shot in the 8th inning off Matt Bush, and that is Semien's third of the season. So the Jays now trailing Texas 2-1. Nice afternoon for Hyun Ryu. 7 innings of 2-run ball, no walks, and 7 strikeouts. Meanwhile, George Springer suffered a setback, but it's got nothing to do with his oblique. Springer felt some tightness in his right quad when running the bases Tuesday. MRI results are pending. This morning, the Jays signed GM Ross Atkins to a 5-year extension. Well, goaltender Jack Campbell can set a Leafs record tonight by winning a 10th straight game. Leafs host the Habs at 7:30 on Sportsnet and Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Meantime, the Toronto Raptors have ruled out the same 6 players for tomorrow's game against the Bulls. That means Fred VanVleet will miss a 3rd straight with a left hip flexor. Sounds like Alejandro Pozuelo will not be available tonight when Toronto FC plays Club Leon in the CONCACAF Champions League round of 16. Leg 1 kicks off at 8. And right now, UEFA Champions League quarterfinals, and Mason Mount has given Chelsea a 1-0 lead over FC Porto. PSG holding a 2-1 lead over Bayern Munich. Sports at 15 and 45 past every hour or anytime at sportsnet.ca/590.
As an entrepreneur, I always have to be ready. Ready to invest in our online presence. Ready to increase our cash flow. Ready to adapt to our new reality.
The BDC Small Business Loan is here to help you be ready for what's ahead. Get up to $100,000 with affordable terms and no application fees. It's quick, easy, and 100% online. Apply now at bdc.ca/online loan. BDC, financing, advising, smart.
11 reasons to switch to Search Kings. 11 years helping Canadian businesses. Over 1,000 5-star Google reviews. Better Business Bureau A+ rating. No Google Ads setup fees. Transparent pricing. Flat rate management fees. Over 5,000 happy customers. No contracts. Winner of the Google Customer Satisfaction Award. One of the largest Google Premier partners in Canada. And Search Kings genuinely cares about your business. You want to stand out where your customers are online? Switch to Search Kings.
With breaking news from the Ford government, Ontario declaring a 3rd state of emergency and issuing a province-wide stay-at-home order with the latest. Here's 680's Richard Southern. Richard.
Yeah, James, the most serious restrictions of the pandemic will come into place tonight, and Premier Ford said we need them because things are getting bad, dire in Ontario hospitals.
Things are extremely, extremely serious right now, and I'm extremely concerned. In fact, we learned yesterday morning that admissions to ICUs in the past week are increasing faster than the worst case scenario predicted by our experts.
Starting at midnight tonight, an emergency declaration and a stay-at-home order goes into place. Non-essential retail can only do business via curbside pickup or delivery. Big box stores will have to limit what they sell. Big box stores like your Walmarts and your Costco's can only sell groceries, household cleaning supplies, pharmacy items, and pet care. All other aisles will have to be roped off. Premier Ford facing tough questions about why he waited until today to do this. 3 weeks ago, the 3rd wave was declared, but the Premier contends he acted decisively as soon as he saw the ICU numbers. We're going to have much more coming up at 4:30. Stay with us. Reporting live, Richard Southern, 680 News.
I've got a craving for some McDonald's fries. Crispy, golden, hot. McDonald's fries. The official fries of the Toronto Raptors 3-pointers. When
The sun is rising and the birds are chirping. There's no better way to start the day than a good old freshly milked Jeff. And when it comes to car insurance, only the most oblivious Jeffs get milked. Jeffs who never shop around. Freshly milked Jeff. Good to the last Jeff.
Don't get milked on car insurance. Get a better rate and save an average of $676 with rates.ca.
Traffic and weather together, Carling Donahue.
This report is brought to you by Audi Queensway. So right now it's a pretty busy drive throughout the GTA. We've got delays on the eastbound 401 east to Mississauga Road, then from the 427 to the 400 Express and Collectors. Those delays causing delays on the east 409. That's moving slow from Martin Grove to the 401 Rams. Then delays continue on the eastbound 401 from Keele and the Collectors, Allen out to Leslie, alternately Express and Collectors, and then Ward into Kennedy Collectors and West Need to east to Salem. If you're on the westbound 401, it's heavy from Bayview Express and Collectors to Avenue Road, Allen Collectors, and approaching Keele Express down to Dixon, and then west if you're Ontario Express, west to Mavis Collectors to approaching Mississauga Road. We also have delays approaching the 407 to west of Trafalgar due to earlier issues. On the northbound DVP, it is really jammed approaching Dundas to north of Lawrence, and then we have the eastbound Shepherd ramp to the north 404 closed off. We have the westbound ramp open though. We've also got a delay north 404 approaching 16th Avenue. Westbound on the Gardner, that's slowed from the DVP to west of Strawn. Westbound QEW, we have delays from Ford Drive out to Trafalgar and approaching Burloak to west of Belfline. If you're traveling on the northbound 410, that's heavy from Steeles to north of Queen. Northbound 427, delays north of Finch up to Highway 7. And right now, eastbound on the QEW Gardner combo, things are moving okay, just a slowdown approaching Dorval to Ford Drive. The eastbound Gardner is clear, but we do have debris reported on the southbound 410 approaching Dairy. Traffic spotter said there was a bumper in the left lane. MTO crews are en route to clean that up. The Spring Into Audi event is on now at Audi Oakville, rather Audi Queensway. Enjoy certified pre-owned interest rates starting as low as 0%. Visit AudiQueensway.ca. Now with a look at the forecast, here is...
So, the thing ended, I shut it off. They started going in the shower, they started a new one. I turn it on, it ends. So I'm not sure where we're at right now. Follow along. Apparently they're shutting down this whole fucking thing, huh? Okay, buddy.
Off the lake up to 50 kilometers per hour. That's an east wind. So places like Hamilton and Stony Creek significantly cooler because of that lake breeze. But in Toronto, especially away from the lake, we should squeeze out 20 degrees. A couple of showers Friday morning, drier and sunnier through the afternoon at 18. And we're still on tap for a mainly sunny Saturday. A little bit more cloud in the afternoon, but also 20 degrees. Tonight down to a low of 8 degrees. It's currently 17 degrees at Pearson.
Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we have breaking news from the Ford government. Ontario declaring a third state of emergency and issuing a province-wide stay-at-home order. We have all the news you can use about vaccines, retail, schools. This is 680 News.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Sudano, a licensed insolvency trustee.
As I said, got that assurance from the Premier just a minute or two ago during the break. Let me go to Rob in Niagara now. Robbie might have a solution here for those who feel that they've been, I guess, hung out to dry or falling through the cracks. Rob, good afternoon and welcome to the Oakley Show.
Hey, Judge.
Hey.
Yeah, so I was able to book both my in-laws in for their appointment online. Got them in within a couple of weeks.
And then you got the
father,
the original version mutates. You had to mutate again.
They booked you
That's what you got to think.
For once, he told me I had to go to Toronto. So he ended up leaving it. He called public health down here to find out why. And they advised him that they only book appointments when they have confirmed shipments. So they know they're getting shipments in, but until it's confirmed, they won't release those shots. They told him to call back later in the day, which he did, and he got in within a couple of days. So he called in the morning, couldn't get in, called in the afternoon, got an appointment a couple of days later, and my mom was able to book
talking about
right away.
vaccines, and it's nothing to do with the problem at hand.
All right, so what you...
Than ever to keep students safe and learning. But there's one partner missing, the provincial government. The pandemic isn't even over, and Doug Ford is getting $800 million from schools. And he's privatizing, making virtual learning permanent.
Hey, how many students we got? Like 2 million students times, how much is an
Ontario
iPad?
has a world-class public school system. Tell the Ford Conservatives to stop using this crisis to pull it apart. A message from the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario.
The people arbitrarily get to decide whether your kid passes or not. It ruins
the entire last school year in the first half of this one, because they got $96,000 in isn't enough. Like 97,000, that 1% increase. They need 98,000, and that's why your kids have not been graded in 2 full fucking years.
24 points to 19,001.
Y'all keep insisting they got to go.
Winners on the Toronto market included precision drilling, up more than 6%. We saw Gildan Activewear up 3% on the Toronto Exchange today. Wall Street higher, the Dow up 16, 33,446. Not a whole lot to call home about, but a wins away. S&P gained 4, a little bit of weakness for the tech-heavy NASDAQ was down 9 points. Big winner for Snapchat parent company, Snap stock up more than 20% after reporting some positive results the other day. And here's something I wanted to check into. Of course, our big story today is, the stay-at-home orders going into effect at midnight. And, of course, we got schools closed in Toronto and in Peel and, maybe sporadically in other regions. So, I mean, for parents, if you have to stay home because your kids can't be in school, can you be fired by your boss for that? I wanted to check in with an employment lawyer, Mackenzie Irwin, with Semfiru Law, and she says, no, you cannot be fired. Here's what she had to say.
Tell us you have to get the vaccine. If your boss says so, they can fire you for that. Cut you off. There's that.
And you have to
oh, people that aren't from here tell me what the Canadian law is. You're making up this country, Canada.
And if you're able to do your job from home, then they have to allow you to work from home. If you cannot do your job from home, then your employer should be placing you on this infectious disease emergency leave. In terms of termination, your employer cannot terminate your employment if you're making a legitimate request to stay home to fulfill your child care needs.
All right, good information there. Again, TSX up 24 points, Dow gained 16.
He's heard you have to take a vaccine. All these other things. You have to let the teachers do what they want to. So many times.
We're going to hear what the Premier had to say. The top stories are next.
Good information there.
Hi, this is...
Given a taxi driver mask.
Well, and so is there anybody lobbying for these people, or how do you make this case a compelling one because I guess, have you had any instances where they contracted COVID?
Absolutely, and especially at the beginning. You heard, the most horrifying news out of the airport that several taxi drivers died after contracting COVID. We've had
because they stopped talking
about it drivers that are associated with Beck that we know of anyway, with hundreds of them parked. We haven't been in contact with everyone, but the few dozen or a couple of dozen that we've spoken to have recovered, thankfully. We don't know what the long-lasting effects of this virus are.
Yeah, we do.
They've survived. The issue here is that
they're
being leaned on by government who have completely ignored them. They're doing the work.
It makes a lot of sense because it makes a lot of sense because it was in Stephen King's books, the Captain Trippz. It makes a lot of sense. All these idiots, they keep trying to make people sick, acting crazy and shit. It makes sense that they're getting psychosis from the virus. Every single one of these idiots, they're trying to get in my face and upwind and shit. It's fucking ridiculous.
Government, I received zero response.
I'm not supposed to notice what they're doing. You're psychotic. I keep labeling people as psychotic.
Is it a case that the taxi drivers
going to get mad at me
live
for
in
being right
different
about
areas,
that too?
and so rather than as sort of an industry, they would actually just be directed to go to wherever they would be vaccinated in their own public health unit? Is that sort of the approach that the government has taken?
Government.
I suppose it is, but I think, again, my husband is a first dose of the vaccine.
Province-wide stay-at-home order.
End of the day to one of the hospitals that had leftover vaccines.
It is the bottom of the 8th inning in Texas where the
30,000 leftover vaccines or whatever the number is. That's the other thing they do. They're always changing the numbers on us.
Within minutes for those end of day vaccines, and we've talked about it, and it's just fallen on deaf ears.
So where do we go from this? From here then, Christine? I mean, obviously your people are at risk. There's apprehension. I mean, I'm guessing the industry has also been impacted just due to the pandemic and shutdowns and everything like that. Ridership has to be down significantly. Do you know that as a percentage?
I would say probably 75% reduction at the beginning of the pandemic. Our fleet has returned to about 1,100 cars, so 1,500 drivers maybe. So we're bouncing back, but slowly. And of course, this new stay-at-home order will negatively impact these drivers and our demand. But the biggest thing that I will be left with, even when all of this is done, and yeah, there will be drivers who live in hotspot areas. Our dispatch office is in a hotspot area. I'd love to host one of those mobile vaccination clinics. You know, if they're worried that
southbound on the 410 approaching Derry, the MTO said that they were notified of left lane blocked by some bumper debris. So they're en route to clean that up right now, but it's not causing a delay. If you're traveling westbound on the Gardner, we have delays DVP to west of Strong. West QEW is heavy from approaching Dixie to west of Cawthra, Ford Drive to Trafalgar, and approaching Burloak to west of Guelph Line. If you're traveling on the northbound DVP right now, heading out of the city, it's jammed from approaching Dundas to north of Lawrence, and then the eastbound Shepherd ramp to the North 404 is closed off for maintenance as well. You paid for your disability benefits, and now the insurance company says no. Call Diamond & Diamond and get the compensation you deserve. Call 1-800-567-HURT for your free consultation. Now we'll look at the forecast. Here's Natasha Ramsa High.
All right, see what's outside right now. That's pretty much a carbon copy heading our way for tomorrow. It's going to be mainly sunny. The difference will be that wind off the lake a little bit stronger, up to 50 kilometers per hour. Mild temperatures, super mild. We're starting off at 8 degrees in the morning, getting up to 20 in the afternoon. Cooler near the lake, of course. Overnight tonight, down to that low of 8 degrees. It's 17 degrees now at Pearson.
This is 680 News.
We have breaking news from the provincial government less than a week after the Ford government rolled out what they were calling an emergency brake shutdown for Ontario. They've now announced another stay-at-home order effective tonight at midnight.
680's Richard Southern joins us live to begin our coverage. Richard.
James, the most serious restrictions of the pandemic yet will go into place at midnight, and Premier Ford contends they're needed because he says the situation in hospitals is quickly spiraling out of control.
Things are extremely serious right now, and I'm extremely concerned. In fact, we learned yesterday morning that admissions to ICUs in the past week are increasing faster than the worst case scenario predicted by our experts.
So to try and get a handle on it, starting at midnight, a province-wide stay-at-home order goes into effect. You're only supposed to leave your home for essential reasons. Of course, that's hard to enforce. Non-essential retail will have to close its doors, operating only via curbside pickup or delivery. Nothing changing, of course, for grocery stores and pharmacies. They'll operate as normal. Some stores can operate on appointment only, such as automotive retailers and cell phone retailers. Big changes to big box stores. They will have to rope off a lot of
Remember that the government pays $250 for every cell phone you buy.
Sell groceries, household cleaning supplies.
So this is going to help the economy somehow.
And pet care supplies. Premier Ford this afternoon facing tough questions about why he waited till today.
Well, they spent 3 years hyping up 5G.
The third wave was declared.
And like 3 years before that, hyping up 4G. You can't get 4G.
ICU numbers.
The capacity
and then they start telling you how evil China is.
Even beyond what they told us. And the second I found out yesterday, immediately I asked him to start writing up the orders.
The Premier not budging on sick days. He again said that's a program that's offered by the federal government.
Tell them the truth. You're incentivizing people to simply not work, and then the rest of your system won't run on
their money. Premier wrapped up on an optimistic
note. If it was
saying
tenable, your employer would just tell you to go home and pay you for the day.
The month-long emergency order is over. However, he added this.
The decisions we make now, how we handle the next 4 weeks, will be the difference between life and death for thousands of people.
Reporting live, Richard Southern, 680 News.
The vaccine rollout is changing almost hourly, and with the latest on what it means for you, 680's Moment Crunchie joins us live with the details. Moment.
So, Jan, the province certainly making a pivot in its vaccine plan today, talking about teachers saying starting next week, people, educators who work in the hotspot areas in Peel and Toronto will be eligible for their vaccine.
And as the supply allows, we will expand to more high-risk neighborhoods in other hotspots, followed by a rollout to all education workers across the province.
Now, the Premier didn't give a timeline as to exactly when that would happen, but this is something that people have been calling for the last few days and few weeks. He also said that the province is going to start targeting some of the neighborhoods that have been hit the hardest and by opening pop-up and mobile vaccine clinics. He said they're going to use things in buildings like mosques and churches and synagogues and temples, community centers, and other types of pop-up sites to try to target these areas.
As we bring these mobile clinics online, vaccines will be eligible for people aged 18 years of age and over in the high-risk neighborhoods.
York Region says it's going to start doing some mobile vaccinations next week, targeting some of the factories and congregate work settings in its area, while Peel says as of Friday, it's going to open up its vaccines to anybody 50 years of age and older. Reporting live, I'm Oman Qureshi.
So plenty of reaction coming in from all quarters on this fresh so-called stay-at-home order from the province. 6 Cities' Phil Martino joins us live with what she's hearing. Phil.
James, Dr. Lawrence Lowe, Peel's medical officer of health, tells me we need to take these measures now to bring this wave under control.
To preserve our healthcare system capacity to allow it to continue focusing on the vaccine rollout, and then you essentially you use the time that's gone with this to cover the population with as much vaccine as you can, and then afterwards really start the gradual exit into hopefully a post-pandemic world.
But Dan Kelly, president of the CFIB, says many businesses, particularly in Toronto, have not been able to open for over 300 days, and now retailers are returning to the lockdown list.
That's going to be absolutely devastating as we approach the spring.
Opposition leader Andrew Horvath says today's announcement should have come with direct financial support and compensation for businesses that have now been thrown deeper into crisis, but she claims Doug Ford doesn't want to spend the money. Phil Martino, 680 News.
Here with All News Radio, 680 News. The shocking videos were all over social media. Now, police have made an arrest in connection with the stunt driving incident in North York over the weekend. Here's 680's Mark Douglas.
One suspect arrested, 2 others being sought now in a viral video car rally arson case like no other in Toronto.
To the best of my knowledge, we haven't seen a road set on fire. That was the first.
That's Superintendent Paul McIntyre from 42 Division. It was around 2:30 a.m. Easter Sunday when a crowd of more than 100 gathered at McNichol and Placer Court near the 404. The roadway was set on fire with an accelerant. Vehicles were doing spins, drifting, and burning donuts inside the circle of flames. That was followed by another crowd and another roadway set on fire in Scarborough, then a third crowd not far from that. But now charges have been laid thanks to someone who was there.
There's always somebody in the crowd that wants to see you get arrested.
A 19-year-old man from Waterdown now facing arson and other charges. I'm Mark Douglas.
Gas prices are next.
Listen 3, 4, 5 times a day on your radio, on our mobile app, and on your smart speaker.
Play 680 News.
What does it feel like to play Lotto 649? Well, with an upcoming jackpot of an estimated $16 million, just having a ticket feels a lot like that moment.
All News Radios. All right, Swifty and Potsy standing by. They're going to join us here momentarily, but before we do that, there is a presser taking place right now with the City of Toronto with the Mayor and Dr. Eileen Davila in response to the province's stay-at-home order. Let's pick it up and give a quick listen and see what they're saying.
Go first to Brian Passafium from the Toronto Sun. Go ahead, Brian.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. First question is, last month the city announced a $5 million RFP to create a mobile vaccination program. In terms of what was announced today by Premier Ford, what is the progress of the city's efforts in that regard, and how do those efforts fit in with the province's plans?
So, Brian, there we go, Brian. I believe that there was a $5 million grant, but it was more around getting community ambassadors and agencies to help us in terms of speaking to communities around the city rather than through mobile programs. What we have planned for as part of our immunization plan is to have some mobile and pop-up clinic offerings courtesy of Toronto Public Health and the City of Toronto immunization efforts. And of course, as I mentioned, we're working with our hospital and healthcare partners who have been offering a number of mobile and pop-up clinics throughout the city for a number of weeks now.
Okay, my second question, in terms of the timing of yesterday's announcement that schools would be closed, it left parents with very little time to make arrangements this morning. The mayor issued a statement last night suggesting he wasn't a fan of the short notice.
Because somehow everybody else in the world is going to blame the parents.
Why parents were given such short notice and such a huge shake-up to our daily routines to accommodate this?
Yeah, so Brian, you know, I have to tell you, I'm not a big fan of short notice either. And, you know, I will tell you that the decision was taken very deliberately and with a great deal of consideration.
Leave it at that and answer the man's question.
At the end of the day, taking these kinds of decisions is never simple. We know that there are many, many implications associated with that. That being said, my responsibility is fundamentally to health and safety and to ensure that the actions taken really protect the health and safety of our children and all those who work within the school environments. So as difficult as I know as that was, as a parent myself, I understand that these are very, very challenging circumstances, but I do hope that the people of Toronto understand that the intention was really around best protecting the health and safety of our children and all those who work within the school environment.
So you just bootleg for the same people who've been saying, oh, we have to have kids at school for their mental health, because we own those kids and we're co-parents and we get to decide. But it's so dangerous. You have to give us vaccines so the kids, the 30 bigger kids,
because I was very concerned about the impact that the decision would have on parents. When she assured me in those discussions that she felt that the urgency of the decision in order to keep the schools safe, that we're safe and to address the health issues was of a sufficient urgency that we should move forward with it, I supported that decision and I still do. But I did think it was appropriate and we did have a very thorough discussion about the timing and some of the difficulties that pose for parents and families across the city. But in the end, the health concerns were deemed to be very urgent and appropriate to act upon yesterday afternoon.
Thank you. We'll go next to Nishka Yadav from Global News. Nishka?
Good afternoon, everyone. So my first question is, today Education Minister Stephen Lecce says that he feels closing schools was wrong. But Global News has learned today that at least 2 private schools were conducting in-class learning. Why are private schools in Toronto continuing to operate even after Toronto Public Health mandate to close? If you could comment on that.
So thank you for the question. That's certainly the first I've heard of that. If you provide us with information, we can certainly follow up. The order clearly does apply to all schools within Toronto, and it's our sincere hope that our school partners, whether they're publicly funded schools or private independent schools, are interested in working together with us to preserve the health and safety of all of our school communities, regardless of how they're funded.
Thank you so much. My next question is to Dr. Devella. After the Education Minister's announcement today, will you continue to invoke Section 22 to keep schools in Toronto closed after the April break?
So at this point in time, the order has been issued to cover up until the period of the end of the April break. It's actually my sincere hope that we actually get our children back to in-person learning as soon as possible. Of course, health and safety remains my paramount concern, as it always is when it comes to children or any other members of our community. And it's my sincere hope that we as a community actually do our part to protect our schools. And the way we do that is by staying home as much as possible. We've seen a series of public health measures taken by our provincial counterparts. These are difficult measures, but they're the necessary measures at this point in time. The more we can reduce community spread of COVID-19, the sooner we will be able to assure the continued safe environment in our schools that they have enjoyed so far. That's the ultimate
Locking
goal.
all the kids in a box that's sealed.
We'll pick it
The
up.
virus can't
That is
spread that
Eileen
way.
DeVille, along with
Don't
Mayor
you think so?
Tory and the city's reaction to, again, this third state of emergency and the stay-at-home orders. We're moving.
Residential evictions are also being suspended. Everything you need to know is posted at 680news.com. Premier Ford is also hoping to vaccinate up to 40% of adults across the province over the next month. The ambitious plan will see mobile clinics and pop-up sites to vaccinate all adults in hotspot areas. However, it's unclear right now when or where these clinics will be happening.
Time now for 680 Sports.
You here, can we explain how it is that maybe folks in Niagara feel that they're not being accommodated with the vaccines?
Well, first, John, I want to assure people that it's going to be well before August, before they have been offered their vaccines in the Niagara region. I'm just looking at the online booking. Over 102,000 people in the Niagara Region Public Health Unit have booked and are awaiting their vaccine. All clinics right now are fully booked, rotating in 8 towns across the region. But frankly, that's because the public health unit is a little bit nervous. You know, you remember in February where we had commitments from the federal government of Pfizer and Moderna, and they were pulled back. So they are being a little reticent to book if they don't have confidence that the vaccines are coming. I have more confidence now than I did in February, but I can assure you that the bookings will continue and Niagara will continue to get their fair shares.
All right, and so it's a case where, as somebody had explained to me, finally one caller had said, if they don't have the vaccines in their possession, they're not going to book on speculation that the vaccines will arrive. And you just more or less reiterated that, correct?
Yeah, most public health units book 4 weeks out. So because they have confidence in the 4 weeks of receiving vaccines, beyond that, they're a little nervous, and I completely understand. Looking 4 weeks out right now, we believe that 40% of Ontario adults will be able to have received their first shot by the end of April, which is incredible news.
All right, and so they go through, I guess, their own public health unit or the Ontario government portal then to book online?
Yes, absolutely. Either, but I would encourage people to go on to the Ontario portal. Today alone, we have booked over 200,000 people have got a appointment booked and are ready to get vaccinated.
Well, that clarifies the point then, and I appreciate you coming on short notice. It's always good to clarify when you've had so many callers, and I'm bewildered here on my end. So, Solicitor General, I appreciate very much you weighing in.
Always a pleasure. Stay well.
Thank you. You too. Sylvia Jones, again, that clarifies, and unless they have it, then she would say, as many others have pointed out, just call again, and now that they've got them, or when they do have them, it opens everything up for your potentially being booked. That being said, Swifty and Potsy weighing in. I'm going to cut them short on time, and my apologies for that. So much going on in real time. Catherine Swift, a.k.a. Swifty, former head of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, currently spokesperson for Working Canadians. And Arthur Potts. Potsy is a management consultant in the emerging low-carbon economy, former Liberal MPP for Beaches, East York. Swifty, Potsy, my apologies. I appreciate your staying with us this afternoon.
No problem. Life goes on. I get my jab tomorrow, by the way, and it was totally organized through Shoppers Drug Mart, and it's AstraZeneca. So
how do you feel about that?
I don't know if I'm going to be here next week or not, John.
Well, they've gotten a bad rap. It's funny because even in Europe, the European Medical Agency was saying that there have been some clots in the brain, as you know. Now, we're also hearing from the World Health Organization.
So if you know what the blood-brain barrier is, I don't know what that makes sense. You mean a stroke?
Good luck deciding. plus tax for limited time at participating restaurants. Excludes delivery.
More time outside, more time with family. And who knows, maybe time with more of the family.
2 years ago, all you people wanted was to work from home, and you would take a fucking pay to do so.
You need right now is a
Now
list of
finding out
chores.
you're all a bunch of
Just hire
liars,
the
none of that.
We do it, you enjoy it. Call us once and we'll keep your yard looking Zoom call picture perfect all season.
That's all.
Go to
I don't want to be able to see my face on
hirethegardener.com.
my Zoom call.
That's hirethegardener.com.
680 News Time, 4:51.
Traffic and weather together on the ones brought to you by 407 ETR and Shopper 680. Here's Jordan Kerr.
Westbound 401 is heavy from Bayview, alternately expressing collectors to Dix, and then really slow from Huron-Ontario Express Mavis collectors to approaching Mississauga Road. It's always heavy through here, but it's extra jammed right now. We may have an issue. I'm en route to this area to check it out. Very, very slow going. Westbound 401.
So the traffic guy in the studio just told him what's happening, and he told us. What's the purpose of your helicopter, bro?
Crash here. En route to check that out.
Direction that Dr. Williams and the province are forming. The rules have been so complicated, so confusing. They haven't addressed the problem. The heart of the problem are the communities where the spread has been most rampant. We had this
Really?
general
All those other countries, eh?
you know, that they would have known we should have been shut down the schools. We talked about that last week, that's a real danger point. And so now the boards of health have acted in order to shut that avenue down and do the reset. This notion of putting a blame game down, again, the Fed solve a shortage. The reality is the online booking system isn't working. I had a person here doing some work around my house. He was on the phone for an hour and 20 minutes trying to get an appointment in Prince Edward County. He finally got one, and it's not until the 21st of the month, about a full 2 weeks out. At least he got one. But I feel really bad for those people in Niagara Falls that they probably were on for hours, and the booking system, it's been a disaster and a nightmare, and it needs to be fixed.
All right, so you're discounting what the Solicitor General said, that in lieu of not having the vaccines right there in the freezers or the fridge, they weren't taking appointments because they might not be able to uphold them.
7 ETR for the things that matter most. Now with a look at the forecast, here's Natasha Ramsahai.
All right, we are going to get into some rain, not until Friday morning though, so still mainly clear tonight down to that low of 8 degrees. And we should be hitting highs of 9 for this time of year. We're getting up to 20 tomorrow, mainly sunny skies. Now remember that 20 is away from the lake. You're going to knock off about 5 degrees or so if you are lakeside, and that wind up to 50 kilometers per hour. Friday morning it is going to be a little bit wet, but we're talking a millimeter or two. Sun comes back out in the afternoon.
3 times as much sunlight hitting you, and you're going to be cooler. Also, the air is completely humid, so you can't sweat. That'll completely be cool. And the clouds will hold in the heat.
Now, it's like looking to be in the 10 to 15, possibly up to 20 millimeter range. Much needed rainfall. Overnight tonight down to a low of 8 degrees. It's 17 degrees now at Pearson.
This in a reactive way that's making sense, or are you along with Potsy and saying that they failed in this one?
I think all governments are being reactive of necessity, unfortunately. And the notion that we saw this coming a couple of months ago, no, we didn't. There's been speculation, even now with the schools, for example. You have that group, the coalition of the, medical, I can't remember the precise name, but it's that group of doctors and so on that are saying keep the kids in school. So you're getting conflicting.
But no one can say why. No one is explaining why.
In a very uncertain environment. And there's a great piece in the National Post today by Chris Selling.
Their educations got ruined 2 years ago, a year before, 6 months before you started watching this pandemic. The teachers have been fucking around this whole time. So if they're not being taught anything, they're being abused every day. If you get molested in school, you go to jail. And on and on and on and on and on. No ventilation systems, asbestos, lead, mold, everything. And the teachers constantly trying to put the blame on the kids for everything that happens in their lives. Everything. I'm not going to get into all that right now. It'll take too long. You go back to all the videos to find
environment, and I'm sure down the road,
if we are better prepared now and into the future.
You want to be co-parents, it's so dangerous that you could give the virus to a kid.
As part
with
of
the
this
kids, but
agreement,
they
Trippz is
want to
committed
insist. They
$30
were
million
why not give the
in
vaccine to
for the federal
16-year-olds? Because
and
not
an
approved,
additional 25
dumbass.
million masks for the Ontario government.
Because they can't. They
The masks will be going to healthcare workers, first responders,
can't say anything
and
about
other
12-year-olds and
essential
under or
workers.
whatever.
Good
Oh, there's
news.
almost 16-year-olds. No.
Inline